So tell me, what are ways that you see where teachers can kind of, as you said, make that impact that would have students reach out?
I knew I was going to be a teacher when I was 10 years old. Working in Indianapolis Public Schools, that's one of the most difficult districts, I think, to work in. But also, on top of that, you're fighting the stereotypes of the parents just don't care, right, and the kids don't care, and that they don't learn.
And the teachers don't care.
And all of that. And I'm just here to say that is not the case. Just watching teachers day after day show up, it's getting me teary, do their best for these kids so that they can just make a difference.
Knowing that they're never going to hear a thank you from it.
There were 5 years in a row I didn't get a raise because our salaries were frozen. I had a master's degree at that point. I was only making $2,000 a year more than the brand new for fresh out of school hires. Definitely not for the money. But just watching people show up and do their best. Well, one of these students, super earnest, but just really seemed to struggle. No matter how hard he tried, just couldn't get caught up. But I decided to offer to his parents that I would come in before school if they wanted to bring him before school, and I would help him in reading.
Okay.
As a third grade student in my classroom, and then I tutored him 4th, 5th, and 6th grade before and after school. 2 years ago, I think it was now, his mom just randomly called me on the phone because I have the same phone number. So I said, of course I remember you. She said, I just want to let you know that Junior, that's what she called him, just wanted to let you know that Junior was the valedictorian of his class this year.
No. It's my favorite thing I just read. Her passion for education earned her the Teacher of the Year.
So I got my Teacher of the Year award in the same week I got my RIF notice.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, RIF is reduction in force. And so, yeah, I lost my job the same week I found out I was Teacher of the Year.
Hi, everybody. Kathy Tooley, thanks for rejoining us as we continue our series, The Ripple Effect of a Teacher. I am joined today with the one, the only, the Rebecca Johnson. Thank you for joining me today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Let me tell you a little about her. 15 years of experience in education. Says she was a dedicated career leadership in coaching and supporting others. A former, you've done it all, teacher, instructional coach, assistant principal. Let me just pray with you right now. Let me just pray with you now. I love this. It's my favorite thing I just read. Her passion for education earned her the Teacher of the Year. What an honor.
Yeah, you want to know a funny story about that?
Yes, I'd love to.
So I was in Indianapolis Public Schools, and as you know, there's lots of movement. So I got my Teacher of the Year award in the same week I got my RIF notice.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. Yep. And for those of you who don't know, RIF is reduction in force. And so, yeah, I lost my job the same week I found out I was Teacher of the Year.
And there could be a podcast all in its own, couldn't it?
Yes.
Couldn't it be its own? And then you're also married.
Yes.
And congratulations. 20 years. We were talking a little bit off camera.
Best decision I've ever made.
Aw.
Yep.
Make sure that you tell your husband, tag this one so he knows it. Right? There's my kudo for the day. So one of the things that as I said, when I've done this series, I sent out emails and asked them to kind of look at, pray over, consider what topic. And Rebecca picked unexpected thank yous.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear this when former students reach out.
Yeah.
So tell me, you had to immediately, when you picked that one, thought.
I did.
So
I have to give you a little backstory.
Okay, love it.
So one of my schools, I was a Title I teacher.
Okay.
And so that was when I decided that I loved working with small groups of students. And as a part of that, I was a tutor. Because as you know, us teachers, we have to have more than one job in the queue a lot of the time. And so
For sure.
I worked for a tutoring company. And
On the side.
On the side.
Right.
Yes. But it was students that I were at my school already.
Oh, nice.
And so I decided to start working with these third graders to help them with their reading and their math and things like that. Well, one of these students, super earnest, one of the nicest young men, so polite, so kind, conscientious, but just really seemed to struggle. No matter how hard he tried, just couldn't get caught up. And so I was specifically supposed to be tutoring in math. So I would tutor math after school for this other company. But I decided to offer to his parents that I would come in before school if they wanted to bring him before school, and I would help him in reading.
Okay.
So we did this for...
You're already tutoring in math.
I was already tutoring with math. So I had him as a third grade student in my classroom, and then I tutored him 4th, 5th, and 6th grade before and after school.
Wow.
And 2 years ago, I think it was now, his mom just randomly called me on the phone because I have the same phone number. She called me and she said, "I don't know if you remember me." And I said, "Oh, I remember you." She said, "I just
Being
want
at your house twice a day. I remember you.
Well, it was at school.
But still, I'm with you twice a day.
Yes,
right.
yes. So I said, "Of course I remember you." She said, "I just want to let you know that Junior," that's what she called him, "just wanted to let you know that Junior was the valedictorian of this class this year."
No.
And I cried. Yes. Yep.
I don't think that people listening to this podcast, teachers know, but I don't think people realize what those do to us, what those stories do to us.
Yeah.
I've said on a couple podcasts earlier, we certainly don't do it for the money.
No.
We don't do it for the money. We knew the money when we went into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think teachers should be paid more, but that's not what this podcast is about.
Right.
But it's that.
Yeah.
So why does that keep you going?
Well, so to be completely honest, when that phone call happened, I was out of education. And I had left education and I was just feeling lost. I just kind of felt like I didn't know who I was without being an educator. And I wasn't sure if I even made a difference. Because as an elementary teacher, you don't often get people that reach out, especially in a district where kids don't even most of the time stay in your class.
In that district.
In your school, even in 1 year. I mean, I had yes. In Indianapolis Public Schools, the first year that I taught, I kept track. I never had more than 22 students in my class, but I had 67 kids walk through my classroom that year, in 1 year. So, the likelihood of me being able to keep track of anyone that I impacted, I was just kind of thinking, I'm just not really sure that I made a difference to anyone. And so that just helped reaffirm that all of those years that I spent in education weren't for nothing, that I was able to make a difference, even in one life. And that's what I always prayed. I always just wanted to be helpful and be able to make a difference in just even one life. And so that was just God's little kiss on the cheek to say, you made a difference.
And that's one that said something. We did a podcast earlier that talked about that's for every one you heard, there's hundreds that didn't.
Right.
So tell me, what are ways that you see where teachers can kind of, as you said, make that impact that would have students reaching out?
Oh my gosh, I had so many teachers and so many opportunities that I saw. I mean, working in Indianapolis Public Schools, that's one of the most difficult districts, I think, to work in.
I absolutely agree.
Between the low funding and the transiency, and I don't even want to get into the politics of it. It's just really difficult. But also, on top of that, you're fighting the stereotypes of the parents just don't care, right, and the kids don't care, and that they don't learn,
and the teachers don't care,
and all of that. And I'm just here to say that is not the case. I saw teachers dipping into their own pockets to make sure that kids had things to eat. They had things to wear. They had the materials that they needed. Just watching teachers day after day show up, it's getting me teary, show up, do their best for these kids so that they can just make a difference.
Knowing that they're never going to hear a thank you from it, or an improvement from it, or a raise for it.
Right. And no wonder people burn out, right? I mean, there were 5 years in a row I didn't get a raise because our salaries were frozen. So, it got to the point where as a 10th year teacher making, I had a master's degree at that point. I was only making $2,000 a year more than the brand new for fresh out of school hires because our salaries were frozen and they kept raising the price, the salaries for people to attract teachers to come in. So, definitely not for the money. But, just watching people show up and do their best and find ways where there's just not ways, find resources where there just aren't resources, dipping into their own pockets, staying after, coming in early. I mean, it's no wonder they burn out.
Yeah, it's as we think about that, when you think about the impact that former students have, it's hard because, I'm like both of us, I've been around in a classroom for a very, very long time. I've never thought of it from an elementary's perspective because I was a secondary.
Right.
So I was kind of their last step out the door.
Yeah.
So I do get more of those kudos. A, they're older and they have the ability. And B, I am their exit ramp.
Yeah.
For you,
we're their foundation.
Right.
Yeah. So I will say, in that same group of kids that I tutored, they didn't reach out to me, but I had the gift of being able to, this really troubled girl. I mean, just really troubled. She was wild. Her home life was a mess. She had no stability whatsoever. She hated being in tutoring. So she would fight with me every single day that she was in tutoring. But I was able to see her. She graduated in the same class as my niece. And so I was able to see, I don't even know that she remembered me. I don't know if she took a picture with me. I think she was just being nice.
Right.
But I remembered her. And it was like, again, that little affirmation that, these kids, I was able to help provide a foundation so some of these kids could make it and get out of that cycle and, just live a life that was better than what they lived.
You mentioned it, and I think people think they know. But you said something that I want you to give an example of.
Okay, sure.
You said, teachers are going above and beyond, dipping into their own pockets, giving of their own selves.
Yeah.
That I don't know that everyone watching this podcast knows what that means. I do.
Yeah.
Tell me what it means.
So I'll give you two examples.
Okay.
One, I know that as back when we were doing standardized testing before it was on the iPad, we had to have number 2 pencils. Let's just give an example.
Oh, I remember
of that,
those
right?
days. Yes.
Well, you can't call home and ask the parents to provide their pencils. And so teachers would go.
If you got anyone that would have been answering the phone when you called home.
Right.
Right.
So in one particular year, I taught a 2nd grade classroom, and I had a kid who, for whatever reason, ate pencils, literally. Chewing, eating pencils. Or he would steal them or whatever. And I was going through, an inordinate amount of pencils. And so I decided that I was going to set up a system so that every one of my kids got 2 new pencils every week. So I bought a gross of pencils, 144 pencils, and a nice pencil sharpener. And I went through and I gave each kid a number, and I went through and I used a Sharpie and I wrote their numbers on their pencils.
Every week?
Every week. And so if the kids turned their pencils into the cup at the end of the day, I would sharpen them and I would give them back. And if they kept their pencils from week to week, they would still get 2 new pencils, but then they would have more. And if they lost their pencils, then they had those little golf pencils that you can't sharpen.
Right.
But I bought the pencil sharpener, which was $90 at that time. This was back in 2012, so you know that it's probably a lot more now.
For sure.
The gross of pencils, and then the golf pencils, and the time I went and to number every single pencil
for every
week. And I would sharpen every pencil at the end of the school day. Every day. Because if they put their pencils in the cup, then I would sharpen the pencils so they could start the day with 2 sharp pencils. So really quickly, I said I would give you 2 examples. So that's kind of a serious one. There's a fun one that I did.
Okay.
So when I was in 1st grade, this was back when we had to do writing prompts every week.
Yep, I remember those.
Even in 1st grade, they had these writing prompts standardized that we had to do. And so for my 1st grade students, they had to write a story about flying a kite. Do you know that none of my kids had ever seen a kite, let alone flown a kite? And so how are they supposed to write a story about flying a kite when they'd never done it before? So I went and I bought some kites at the store, and we went out on their, recess time or whatever, or during a writing time as part of the research.
To fly a kite.
And we flew kites. And so then they were able to write about flying a kite.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Sometimes in this podcast, I have struggled because it's so beautiful for me that I get to sit across from other people that I too taught in a not very privileged school, not an IPS, but a not very privileged school, and my students were older, so their struggles were simply different.
Right.
They're caring for those siblings
Yeah.
of yours, so they're
Yeah.
not coming to school because they couldn't get on the bus until yours got on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And then they couldn't stay after school because they had to get home before yours. And when those former students reach back out that they want education now different for their own children,
Yeah.
I think as I watch in the political state where we are now, and I will never allow this podcast to go political. I don't have time.
Right.
And I don't think it does any good. If you want to watch politics, turn on the news.
Great.
And listen to people argue. But I think I would be negligent in not saying that the political landscape impacts our classrooms.
It does.
So I didn't plan to ask you this question, but so you said you left education.
I did.
Why? What was the straw for you?
So when I first started being a teacher, I thought I never want to leave the classroom. But I got burned out because it was hard. I was dealing with so much, not just teaching, that I was tired. And so I had a principal that put me in a title school or title position where I got to work with the small groups of students. And then I realized I really liked working with both the students and the adults. Yeah. So I started working with the kids and the adults and the parents. So that was really exciting. And it was that time that someone said, you should be an administrator. And I said, I'm not sure. So then I became a coach, and I saw so many things that I saw that needed to change, ways that kids could be supported better, ways that teachers could be supported better. And so I thought, well, maybe if I'm an assistant principal, I can make a difference.
That'll make a difference, yeah. Isn't it
And-
so interesting? I remember
Yeah.
feeling that same way too.
Yeah.
If I just go to the next
Right.
level,
Yep.
I can affect the change. That's the problem.
Right.
Is I can affect it, and if I just get there.
Right. So as an assistant principal, I still felt like I wasn't able to make the changes. So I thought, well, if I become a principal, and by the time
you sound like me.
by the
yeah.
time I got done with my second year as a principal, I realized that there were just things that I was not going to be able to control and affect. And I just didn't think I could be in education anymore, seeing how I felt like I was just almost useless. I know that I'm not now that I have perspective, but then I just felt like I'm not making a difference.
Tell me the moment you knew.
I think it was during COVID, where I wasn't able to protect my students and my teachers the way that I wanted to, because of things that were being handed down to me,
For sure.
that were even above central office.
Agreed.
You
Agreed.
know, and
Our government, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
knew what was going on.
No,
Let's face it,
and
we've not been
so,
through a pandemic.
no.
And so it was a little first for most of us
Right.
walking alive now.
So I just kind of felt helpless. I did feel helpless. I felt like I knew things needed to be different, and I did not see a way that I could make a change. And I was just tired of trying.
And so for you, you had a moment where you thought, I can't make a difference. I'm not making a difference.
Yeah.
And therefore you walked away from the very thing that you.
Yeah. That I thought since I was 10 years old that I was going to do. I knew I was going to be a teacher when I was 10 years old.
So that one student reaching out did what for you when you've already made the decision to leave?
It just reaffirmed that I didn't waste those years. I wasn't sure. I was grieving. I was grieving what I thought my life was going to look like. I was grieving my identity and who I thought I was. And I was grieving that, did I just put all of that time and effort and love and tears and time away from my family and stress and did I just waste it?
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just an affirmation that God used me in that time.
So there's someone listening to this podcast right now who's sitting right where you are.
Yeah.
And they're trying to decide if it's their moment. You're talking to two diametrically different women on this stage.
Yeah.
I stayed.
Right.
I stayed. I stuck it out until I was literally fired on November 14th of 2014. You left.
Mm-hmm.
See, I really believe, Rebecca, that there isn't a right or a wrong.
Right.
There isn't. But what would you say?
Well, to be completely transparent and vulnerable, I don't think I would have chosen to leave had I not been booted.
Me neither.
Right?
Agreed. Me neither. Me neither.
But I think the reason that I am being, I chose to stay out. I chose to stay out instead of go back in. And I think for someone who's on that crossroads, you have to just decide, where do you think you can make the most difference?
That's it.
And what is best for you personally, for your mental health, your spiritual health, your energy, your family? Are you sacrificing more than what your family can give? Are you sacrificing more than what you personally can give? I look at pictures.
Because if you're looking for grass greener somewhere else, you're not finding it.
But I look at pictures of those 2 years, those last 2 years in education, and I could see in my eyes that I wasn't happy. And then I look at pictures that summer when I was still grieving, and I see a lightness that I had in myself. And so it was the right decision for me to not be back in education. And I'm still being used as an educator. It just looks different.
You're sitting on this podcast.
Yeah.
So clearly the Lord wants to use you.
Yeah.
You're sitting on this podcast.
Absolutely.
And we didn't know each other.
No.
We didn't know each other except through the people behind the cameras and all of we didn't know that. So I couldn't agree more. I think whether you are in education a year or 40 years, there is a purpose and a plan for it.
Yep.
And your ability to listen to former students and have them reach out and know the difference that you've made may just be enough. It may just be enough. So as we wrap this up, I have to ask you this question because it's been pressing on me for a while, and that is, what would you tell the younger you sitting in college? She's going to school. She's known she was going to be a teacher since she was 10 years old.
Yeah.
What would you tell her?
I would just encourage her that even though she cried every day, she was going to cry every day for the first 2 years as a teacher.
For sure. Lots of tissues.
Right?
Lots of tissues.
And that even though things were hard, and even if things were stressful, that she was going to make a difference, that God was going to use her. And it wasn't going to look how she thought it was going to look when she was 10.
There it is.
But that doesn't mean that it wasn't something that was
being used. Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a part of this. I hope that those of you watching, because I know that we're living in a world right now that education is becoming a revolving door.
Yeah.
It's becoming a revolving door. And I love and think, I don't think it's right that I stayed or wrong that you left, or right that you left and wrong that I stayed.
Right.
It was a good choice for me.
Yep.
As it was a good choice for you. And I think that, I said this a couple of podcasts ago, that God said the greatest gift of all is love. And we just love each other through our decisions. And I know that however long you were there, I've only spent a little bit of time with you. I know you made an impact.
Thank you.
I'm sure you made an impact. And so for those kids, because you have the little ones who are probably not as vocal to tell you how great you were, I want to thank you for that. And thank you for speaking into what it was like to leave. We've not had a guest yet that we've had the opportunity to speak with that, and I appreciate for doing that. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing you on our next one. Have a fantastic day.